All right, everyone, here we are. Welcome to another Data Science Talk here with the Data Science Club at Sacramento State. Today we have a featured guest, Dhaval Bhatt, Wells Fargo AI Product Management Leader and UC Berkeley Davis Data Science Instructor. We're happy to have you. Thanks so much, Dhaval.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here, Roger and Talib. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. So me and Talib, we are officers here in the Data Science Club. We brought you on board to really expose our members to, what a day in the life of someone in data science is exposed to, maybe different career paths, so much more. So we'll just go right into the questions that we have for you. And so we'd really like to know about your journey into data science. Like, what's your story? We saw, you made a little bit of a career shift at one point from electrical engineering, and we'd really like to have you share, whatever you can about it.
Yeah, big props to you and Talib for starting a data science club out in Sacramento State. That's pretty awesome that you guys are doing it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was just in an event, and the Chief Entrepreneurship Officer of UC System was talking about how more students need to build clubs and be more entrepreneurial for the UC University of California system to be more forward. And you guys are a living example of that. So big props to you. So anyways, a little bit about myself. I started in electrical engineering, and I went to work in the space of aerospace, where I was working on commercial and military avionics systems. What that means is software for auto landing, software for autopilots, software that helps the flight on track, navigation systems, things of that nature. So I worked on that for quite a long time, about 7 to 8 years. And what I found was it was a fascinating field. It was really good in its rigor and science behind it. But what I was missing was that fast-paced nature of product development. And there's a saying in the space of aerospace that says that if you want to build an aircraft, the amount of legal paperwork and compliance paperwork you have to do is the paperwork will eventually, all the papers, if you print them out and actually weigh them, they will be same weight as the actual aircraft. So it's a very heavily regulated industry. So in banking right now. So you can imagine how regulated banking is, especially in recent days, in recent years. So it's even more regulated than that, coming from that space, coming from having that context. So yeah, that's why I was looking to get into something fast-paced, and I started working on building my own e-commerce websites. I started learning a little bit about marketing. I started reading books about marketing because I knew the engineering part of it, but I did not know the business side of it. So I started learning about the business side of the stack, so to speak. And I started going to conferences. I had a couple of options. I could have done an MBA, or I wanted to, or I could have done something different. I could have learned it on my own by doing my own projects. But I went to some of the MBA conventions, like those, what's that called, conferences where you go to introduce yourself and meet potential faculty and the students. I could not really relate with a lot of that culture, the MBA culture. So I came to realize that I'm more of an experimentation type of a person who would learn about business on his own. And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up learning about business by reading books, going to conferences, starting my own business projects, and just building stuff and trying to sell it. That was my approach. And that's how I got into business and entrepreneurship. And since then, it's been an interesting journey. So my first project was just an e-commerce website, bunch of e-commerce websites. Then I started doing more like a entire marketing automation. This was about 10 years ago, before Salesforce and all those CRM platforms were so big. So now it's very big. It's a whole industry in and of itself, whole marketing automation. When I started in it, it was pretty young and it was pretty new, and a lot of businesses didn't know how to do that. So I was helping them with that. And after that, one of my ideas was to build a marketing automation platform, but it didn't quite take off. It kind of failed a year into it. And that's when I went back to UC Berkeley learning about data science, because I realized from that, all of that experiences, that data science and analytics and machine learning were going to be super big, because now the marketing had the ability to capture all the data, business had the ability to capture all the data that wasn't available before. So I saw that trend coming. So in early 2014, I started exploring whether or not I should go back to school and professionally learn this stuff. So I ended up going back to UC Berkeley. I did my master's through that program. There was a pretty intense program, and as I was finishing it up, I started building my own websites I started building my own products, not websites. I started building my own products in the space of AI. I recruited my colleagues in the class, very much like you guys are. I would highly recommend you network with each other to see how you guys can build something together, something more than a club, something real, like something like a product. And this is real. This is awesome that you're doing, but also like actual products. And that's what I ended up doing. So I built products, and that's how I got experience in building machine learning products. I built a startup that ended up winning awards from Google, IBM, NVIDIA, Intel, O'Reilly, and it was a lot of fun. So ended up getting acquired by Berkeley Data Science Group, and was used by Cisco eventually. So that's my story.
Oh, wow. Sorry, curious. What is the product, or are we able to look it up? Very, very, very curious.
Yeah, you can if you want to. It's called Resonate.ai. I don't know if the website's still up. I ended up selling the digital assets to a company called Resonate Networks, and I ended up selling the intellectual property to Berkeley Data Science Group. So, I got best of both the worlds. The IP was used by Berkeley Data Science Group, and then the actual digital assets were used by this other commercial company out of East Coast.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about what Resonate AI does, and like why it was so successful in being acquired by Berkeley?
Yeah. So what was the second part of the question?
Why it was so successful in being taken up by Berkeley?
Berkeley Data Science Group. Yeah. Okay. So the reason it was successful, I'll tell you a little bit about the product. The product was helping you analyze your writing, and it would analyze your text, and it would tell you whether or not you are meeting the tone that you intend to write in. So let's say if you're a bank called, let's say you're a new bank for millennials, and that's a whole new brand, and then your style of writing, your brand and your tone and everything that you write on your website, including your emails and everything, is supposed to be geared towards millennials, right? So if that's the case, then you want to write in a little more casual way, more hip. You want to be less stuffy and not be as redundant. So if that's your brand tone, if you want to be warm, pleasant, you want to be less redundant, you want to be playful, you can configure that in the product, and then as you write, it will give you suggestions on how you can improve your writing so as to match with that tone that you have configured it to be. So that was a product. Does that help?
Okay, very interesting.
Natural language processing tools to kind of tailor the way you market your products to certain individuals.
Yeah, that was intention. So you can, I'm sure there's a company that raised over $100 million. By the way, we did not raise a single dollar. There's a company that raised over $100 million, and it's called I think it's, I forgot the name, Parisito or something like that. And it's a plugin in Salesforce, and our competitor. So yeah, to answer your question, if you have an audience, you can collect their data based on the data that's available for them, based on their social data that may be available to you. And then using that data, you can tailor your tone to what they may find resonating.
Okay, awesome. So moving on to the next question we have.
So we kind of wanted to know Oh.
Yes.
There you go. So I kind of wanted to know, like, what your day-to-day work is like. Just basically kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis at work. Like what it consists of. I mean, not necessarily just what skills or tools you use, but if you necessarily work in a team, basically, what do you do at work?
Sure. So in my primary job at Wells Fargo, what I do is I work in a team. There's a product management team. My boss is SVP of innovation. And what we do is I work with lines of businesses. At Wells Fargo, there are over 74 lines of businesses. And each and every line of business has to go to the innovation team when they want to deal with anything that has to do with AI. So what I do is I groom their ideas. So let's say if lending line of business, lending, mortgage lending line of business has an idea of predicting when a particular customer who has a banking account will be ready for mortgage. Right? It's a very common scenario. All banks do that. All financial institutions do some sort of prediction on when the next big event is going to be happening in their prospective customers' life, so that they can start marketing them accordingly. So let's say if that happens, they want to work with us. So my job would be to help them groom the idea and turn that into a business opportunity. And then once that happens, they get a project number or some kind of funding for it. And if it gets approved, what I do is then I manage the life cycle of the entire product development, product management, product delivery. And then once that happens, we move it to production, where it's handed off to the technology teams and the models are scaled out. And at that point, my job is complete. So at that point, I make sure that the models are validated, models are maintainable, and all of that stuff. And then once that happens, it's handed off to the technology teams, and then they run with it. So I deal with, most of my time goes into the early initial idea phase, where they have an idea, and whether I have to help them decide whether or not they can turn that idea into a tangible product, and then how are they actually going to do it. Some of those early steps of turning an idea into a product.
Do you find that you still, get down to the code level to analyze data, or to, I guess, figure out how you could, turn something into an AI product, something, at the coding level, still being, at the product management level?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in my last product management role, I did that. In my current role, I don't need to do that. Depending on how new the technology is, I may do it on my own just to validate some of the things, but in an official capacity, I don't need to do that. So does that help you answer the question? Roger, does that help you answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me add a little more color to it. So in my current job, I don't necessarily open up like a Jupyter notebook or PyCharm or anything like that to see whether or not a certain idea can be turned into a valid model, or if there is a model that we can run to actually take this idea and make it into real product. But the only reason I can do that is because I've done it hundreds of times and I have a lot of experience around that. So I can get away without actually doing a lot of coding. I've been doing coding and development and product management for 15 years now, 17 years. So it's not absolutely needed for me to actually get into the nitty-gritty. But sometimes I do when I need to. But in an official capacity, I don't ever do that.
Got it. Okay, very interesting. Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things about product management, it's very customer focused. It's not focused on the code or any of that. And it's not like, I'm focused on whether or not this use case will create value for the user. And then I have technical experts helping me decide whether or not it's feasible to, go forward with it or not.
Okay, so part of your role as instructor in the data science bootcamp, it still keeps, I guess, your modern tool sets and still keeps your hands a little bit dirty in the code, I guess, to keep you up to maybe modern libraries and tools.
What was that? What was the question?
Oh no, sorry, just a comment. So your role as instructor in the UC bootcamps, it still keeps you up to date with like a lot of modern data libraries and frameworks, tools, and so much more as a complement to your actual role at Wells Fargo.
100%. Yeah, that's true. That's one of the things I love about my teaching role at UCB and UC Davis is that it helps me stay current with all the technologies, especially the curriculum is pretty awesome if you know about it. And then the students are even better because I learn a lot from students and their experiments and their projects because they always tend to find some new libraries or something new that is appealing. So yeah, that is. And then without it goes without saying, I still have to work on some of my personal projects. Like Scribbler is a personal project of mine. I'm working on it. It's a hobby project. It's a writing tool. It's a writing tool for writers, and I'm hoping to use some natural language processing in that. So doing private projects, personal projects, hobby projects helps me current as well.
Wow, very interesting. That's good.
So our next question, a little bit more philosophical, not so much technical. What kind of motivates you? What drives your passion for your field, for data science?
Yeah, what motivates me is pretty simple. I love seeing, I love seeing a combination of data and intuition, a good combination of data and intuition when a decision is made. So what I enjoy the most about what I do and what I teach and the entire space of data science is that it's not putting down intuition. It is actually giving it a valid space and room to in our tool set, right? Whereas in like 20, 30 years ago, it was not, data wasn't as important of a tool in your decision-making tool set. So it was very much driven by intuition, very much driven by political motivations, which it still is. It's all of that still exists, but now data has gotten an important role in that tool set of making decisions. So that's what I find passionate. That's what I find fascinating. I love all different need, enhancing those tools when it comes to making decisions and providing different capabilities to the people who are making decisions, day-to-day decisions, and improving their life to use the combination of data, intuition, other things that they need to know when making a decision. So, philosophical answer.
Nice.
Really cool. We'd love to know or hear about any current projects you're working on, data related. You did mention Scribbler, maybe even some finer details about how you're creating that and how it relates to data and the impact.
100%, yeah. So in my hobby project, Scribbler, with a Q, it's a project that helps writers write. It's a platform, writing platform. And what I'm working on there is helping writers unblock creativity and improve their flow of writing. So
we don't need to sign an NDA or anything about this information, right? This is
no,
it.
I don't believe in NDAs. NDAs are overrated. So
okay. Yeah.
But if our CEO finds out about me talking about it, he may not be too happy. But I'll have to manage that on my own.
If you'd like to talk about another project, that's totally fine too, just to maintain confidentiality.
Yeah, I'll maintain confidentiality. I won't give out a lot of details of what we are trying to accomplish. Thank you for that nudge. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so what we are trying to do there is help writers improve their flow of writing. And one of the things we are doing is we have found a couple things work, which is having a prompt in writing. So what that means is you drop a writer in middle of a scene and you describe this scene in a very visceral manner with like little details. And then you have like 2 or 3 lines of those scenes. And then what happens is writer starts picking it up from there. So it's a starting point. So that's what I find, and that's what gets the writer going, because most of the writers have a creative block. Not most of the writers, but some of the writers who have a creative block need that initial boost of creativity to get them started. And that's what Scribbler does. It helps them provides those initial boosts to kickstart their creativity. And that's one area. And the other area that I'm using AI in is that I'm planning to use AI in is understanding the patterns of stories. I mean, storytelling has its own patterns, and my goal is to dissect those patterns and guide the writers in guide the fiction writer or nonfiction writer in helping them shape their stories that are going to be delighting their readers. So it could be used as both as a storytelling tool to improve your stories, as well as help you boost your creativity. So it's a big project. It's a mission of a lifetime. It's not something that we can solve with current technology. And I'm chipping it away one bite at a time. It's going to take many, many years, but that's why it's a hobby project.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, really incredible product. Actually, I do see that as a very difficult problem. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun problem. Thank you.
Another question we had, I'm sure this is probably one of the more popular questions too, is specifically what tools, libraries you use for machine learning AI. I'm sure popular ones, TensorFlow, PySpark, PyTorch are pretty notoriable. But what do you recommend for people who have coding experience trying to get more into AI, machine learning, to really try to get a grasp of?
PySpark. I don't have many options here. Just PySpark. If you learn that, you'll have a lot of fun.
Okay, that's what, or at least that's the part of the tech stack that Wells Fargo decides on.
Yeah, so that's I cannot necessarily get into I don't know if that's something I can talk about here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I highly recommend PySpark.
Okay, got it. Very cool. So we've collected a handful of questions from our members. They've submitted all of this in a Google form. So we're just going to sift through some of those. One member is curious, how flexible is your work schedule, or what's like your work dynamic? Is it like most startups, like really intense, like back-to-back 15 hours, but yeah, how flexible is it? How is your work schedule?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The life you want is the life you choose, right? It's if you live the easy way, you will have a hard life. If you live the hard way, you will have an easy life. Some of the famous quotes in the space. I choose a hard life, and I have hobby projects. I teach at UC Berkeley, UC Davis. I compete in strongman events. I compete in Tough Mudder. I am a yoga teacher. So I love all of it. I love having a busy life, and my day starts early in the day around 7. As soon as I start, I try to be up by 6. By 7, I have my first meeting, and that's with my friends who are helping me with my hobby projects. And then once I'm done with that meeting around 8 o'clock, I get to work around 8:30, 8:45. And then I'm there until like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then I go work out for half an hour and I go teach after that. So that's my most of the weekdays. And then on the weekends, I'm more flexible. Like I spend 2 hours in the gym on the weekend. I sleep a lot more. I read a lot more, and I make sure I recharge myself in a way that's ready for me to explode. That allows me to explode and expand my energy as the week goes. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Very inspirational.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's good to hear that you're not just behind a keyboard all day, every day, but you have, you know, other interests that kind of keep your mind fresh.
Yeah, it's a must. I mean, I see some of my friends burn themselves out and then they have to take an extended break. My hope is to never ever having to take a break. You know, one of those, you know, those people who go on, what's that called? They go on like something off. They go off on a vacation for 3 weeks. Like, I don't need that. I need 3 hours to recharge. Put me in a Russian sauna and I'll be ready to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So so another question that one of the students submitted was basically what are the core topics, things one kind of needs to know when studying data science, pursuing a job in data science, not necessarily just coding skills. I know you mentioned you learned a lot of marketing skills, you know, outside of, you know, engineering. But what are some things that should really be focused on as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. What I find in this space is people, especially tend to overrate the coding skills and the hard skills, the tangible skills. There's a lot of, it's overrated in my opinion. And what is absolutely must is the communication skills, ability to tell a story, ability to make friends, ability to partner, ability to understand when you need to stop speaking, ability to speak up when you need to, and things of that nature are so much important, especially in this space, because you are helping people make decisions. If you're in the data space, you are in some way or the other shaping the decision making, and data is just half of the game. The other half is what are the social aspects of this decision? What are the political aspects of this decision? What are the what are the ways it's going to have other impact, like economic and non-entrepreneurial impact? So people don't develop a balanced perspective if they focus too much on the tangible skills, and those non-tangible, non-hard, the soft skills are critical. So being able to communicate, being able to tell a story, being able to make friends, being able to deal with conflict, being able to play the politics, the good politics, being able to compel people into being able to tell a compelling vision, portray a compelling vision. These are all super important skills, and people don't even pay 20% attention to those skills in the space, because their role model is some super PhD working at Google on optimizing some model by 3%. And that's just an anomaly, that persona. And usually you don't go anywhere if you try to make that your persona, because it takes years to get there, and there 99% of the jobs are not like that. They are more regular jobs where you need to have a lot of good communication skills. And I'm not saying they don't, that engineer doing machine learning to optimize a model by 3% and has multiple PhDs is not someone who has good communication skills, but that person doesn't need to go to the CEO, or that person doesn't need to go to the big, big teams and portray a vision, because that person has so much expertise. But regular Joes, people like me, they need to be able to tell a story. They need to have that strong communication skills, and 99% of jobs are like that. So most of the people don't appreciate that, and they need to.
I found that myself to develop my public speaking skills and to be able to communicate more effectively. I just attended one back-to-back hackathon after another, and working collaboratively with other people and being in a really tight time constraint where we're forced to interact, and then at the end, pitch our project and present it and demo it. I found that I was able to really curate those skills, and even for our members, also I would highly recommend to try to attend as many datathons or data hackathons as you can to really polish that. How would you say for yourself, did you improve your communication and I guess public speaking and storytelling, at least for the data category?
Yeah, Roger, that's a great point. So which weekend, which project did you do? What was that word that you used? Did you do hackathon? Which hackathon? Is that startup weekend? Did you do startup weekend?
So I have attended a few of those. Honestly, a lot of our projects crashed and burned. We barely had a minimum viable product, worthy of demoing. There was one product which was a natural language processor for handwritten text. So the idea would be that, let's say someone who is visually impaired or deaf, they could take a picture of someone else's notes and transcribe that into readable text that they could also hear audio from to help them in taking notes, kind of as like a note-taking aid in class. Wasn't totally finished. There was a lot of issues with it, but yeah, that was the idea behind it.
Got it. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Big props to you for doing that. So I got started improving my public speaking skills by using podcasts. I started a podcast just like what you're doing right now. I had a podcast. I would interview people who were just a step or two ahead of me and understand their journey and learn from them. So that was one of my early steps I took, and then I started working on projects with people where I have real skin in the game. So what that means is people are not just working on projects when they have time, but also committing to like a time frame and a timeline, and then building those projects, building a discipline around working with entrepreneurs who are like, okay, let's see if this project goes anywhere. If it doesn't, that's fine. If it does, great. So having a fixed timeline and having a sense of urgency around those projects, working with multiple people doing that helped me a lot as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, skin in the game is so important. Skin in the game is so important. I have to reiterate that. Like, go build your own products. Put your own money on the product, and then you will realize what it takes to be an entrepreneur and build products, and that will really clean up all the noise and help you just be very clear about what you need to do to be successful.
Very cool. That's awesome. We're winding down to our last two questions. So we're really curious. Do you find it mandatory to get a master's to get into data science? I see that a lot of people, even just on LinkedIn, that do work as a data scientist or anything, in a relevant role, have masters or even PhD. I do also read online a little bit that, it's a new role, it's a new field a little bit. So over time, it will trickle down into, let's say, the bachelor's level, which might even become its own, bachelor's major.
Yeah, UC Berkeley is designing a bachelor's of science in data science space. I was just talking to them a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, really cool. But at least for maybe even the short term, do you see it being mandatory to go into the master's for data science to really secure yourself for one of those roles?
I would say it depends on where you get your master's from and how much time you put into it. At the end of the day, what you get is what you put into it. So getting a master's in data science from, let's just say, some random university is not going to be same as getting a master's in data science from UC Berkeley, which is, the state-of-the-art program in its category and has a very high, very low acceptance rate. So you will meet really high quality students there. So it's not really the content. All the content can be found on YouTube. It's about the people that you surround yourself with. So that's a mindset you should have in this space. Whether or not you should do masters or not is not the question. Whether or not you want to, the question you should be asking yourself is whether or not you want to hang out with people who have skin in the game and who have shelled out a few $1,000s to make it a commitment of their life and are putting in 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day to learn that skill. And that's what Masters in Data Science at UC gave me. It gave me the environment where I was surrounded by people who had skin in the game. So you can recreate that environment on your own as well, no doubt about it. It's just a little harder to recreate that on your own, but you can. You can meet friends, you can hold them accountable, they can hold you accountable, you can all work on you can all build out a curriculum. You don't even need to build out a curriculum, just copy some other school's curriculum and then work on that for like a semester, and you have your own master's program. The future of education is not going to be in universities. It's going to be asynchronous and remote like this. So and millions of dollars are being poured into making education more accessible to everyone. So the content itself doesn't matter. It's the context and the people. So yeah.
So what you're saying basically is it's not so much where you develop your skills so much as who you network with and the type of people you surround yourself with. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. The environment.
Cool. All right. So next question we had was, so where do you see the future of data science and the job outlook? So obviously it's a rapidly expanding field. Where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, I see a lot of automation. I see a lot of data science getting automated. I see most of the stuff that we teach at the boot camp or in the preliminary classes of data science there are already products out there that automates all of that. So web scraping, there are multiple products out there that does it for you and all of that. So I see a major amount of automation coming into the space of data science and machine learning. What I see is it's going to become like Microsoft Word, where everyone who uses in about 15 years is going to be like Microsoft Word, where everyone uses it with a point and a click interface. There are already products like that allows people who don't even know how to write a line of code in Python can use deep learning models to analyze and build models. There are already products out there. So I see a major amount of automation coming into the space of data science and machine learning. And what I see happening in the future is people who understand the science at its very core and are people who can tell the stories. If they are the same people, then they're going to be succeeding very well in this space. So understanding the foundations of data science, not necessarily the all the nitty-gritty and details or the specific feature of pandas that's going to help you slice and dice the data. That is going to be helpful, but not as helpful as understanding the foundations of data science, like statistics, inference, what is regression, and some of those foundational scientific blocks. Understanding those, there are a few books, like you can learn those things in like 3 or 4 books. Understanding those foundations and then being able to communicate in a very clear and a succinct manner to tell a story. Those are the 2 skills that are going to differentiate the data scientists. And obviously, if you know all the nitty-gritty, like the pandas, specific functions and all of that, that's also helpful. But as you know, that those things are getting automated every other day.
Okay, fantastic. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Mr. Dhaval before we let him return to all those incredible ventures and data and so much?
You're too kind, Roger.
Do you, Dhaval, do you have any questions for us? I know we're at the student level, but
yeah, wait, sorry, one question. Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is what you meant, but you're into data science with creating your own product and like knowing it, like knowing how to make that product. But then you say that your softer skills of like communicating and teamwork are on the same level. Is that like, I'm not really getting like a clear.
Was that easy for you to hear, Dhaval? Sorry, we probably should have moved closer.
Yeah, no, I heard you. So what I think the question is, how did you learn, the soft skills, or how do you go about developing the soft skills? I mean, is it the same way as you develop the way? Is it the same thing that you do when you get into the data science space where you build your own products? That was the question, right?
I think rather you're into data science was creating your own product, but then you're also saying that another very important thing is to being a good communicator. What if like you don't have both of those, but one of those is your stronger suit? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So you can choose one of those to be your go-to-market avenue. You can just say, okay, I'm going to work on, this is my strength. I'm going to go to market with this strength. But over the course of next 3-4 years, I'm going to build my other area. Otherwise, I know that what I'm doing is eventually leaving me very vulnerable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So we're just about now wrapping up. We would really like to express our gratitude and appreciation, Dhaval, for taking your time to share your thoughts, ideas, and your career path with us. Very inspirational. We'll be honest, a lot of us do aspire to do some similar things. And do you have any maybe final closing remarks before we end the session today?
Well, I wanted to thank you, Roger and Talib, for having me on the show, for having me in the class.
We're official.
Official, yeah. Yeah, big props to you guys for doing this. All the students who are there in the class on a Friday afternoon, you could be doing whatever your fellow classmates are doing on your Friday afternoon. Instead, you're here. So, big props to you. Showing up is 90% of success. So congratulations on showing up and doing this and putting this thing together. If you guys ever want to work on any projects, or if you want to run anything by me, happy to. I'm very accessible. So feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And looking forward to see where this data club goes. And I hope that hopefully one day I can interview you in the near future. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. That would be incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Dhaval. Goodbye. And goodbye to the rest of the day. All right. Cool. That was awesome. Great. My computer actually froze at one point. I don't know if I can even. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate you attending. If any of you have any type of feedback or anything, or yes, let's say